Everybody, it's time for another reading of Shipping and Handling. The bonus chapter is Candyfloss. Dr. Candyfloss in Operation Cadence. Ponyville was not a town full of early risers. Usually, when the sun had barely poked its upper rim over the horizon, the small town's residents were still fast asleep. But as usual, one aging white unicorn was already wide awake, and humming contentedly to himself as he trotted through the front door of the small business he owned. Dr. Candyfloss, owner and CEO of Aquatia Speedy Shipping Services, had always enjoyed the peace that came along with the early morning. By nature, Candyfloss was a calm, level-headed type of pony. But in a town like Ponyville, excitement was never far away, at least, not once its residents has awoken. Candyfloss settled into a large, comfortable chair in his small office and checked the clock. It would still be a short while until his employees arrived, and possibly a lengthy amount of time after that until the first call of the day came in. So, as always, the morning paper would always pass the time. Candyfloss lifted the morning news in front of his face and began to read the article that took up most of the front page. Royal couple returned from honeymoon. Yesterday, the city of Canterlot celebrated the return of the royal couple, Princess Cadence and Shiny Armor, from their lengthy honeymoon. Ponies gathered from all around Canterlot, as well as its neighboring towns, to welcome the princess and the captain of the Canterlot Royal Guard back home. The couple would be spending a few days in Canterlot to visit Princess Celestia and enjoy some of the city's popular amenities before returning to Cadence's home in the neighboring kingdom. "I'm so glad to see them back, and happy to hear that they enjoyed themselves," says Ponyville resident and sister of the groom, Twilight Sparkle. "My brother and Cadence are two of the most wonderful ponies I know, so seeing them in their new relationship as husband and wife working out so well leaves me feeling a sense of joy as well. Princess Celestia, although she does not rule from Canterlot, I totally messed that up. Princess Cadence, although she does not rule from Canterlot, seems to receive an especially warm welcome whenever she visits. The princess's charming personality, and humility led her up to be adored by all, and all that use of her, and all. I can't speak today. Excuse me. Sorry. Princess Cadence, although she does not rule from Canterlot, seems to receive an especially warm welcome whenever she visits. The princess's charming personality, selflessness, and humility led her to be adored by all, and the use of her special love magic brings joy to many of Canterlot's residents. She has recently... Candyfloss stopped reading abruptly and slowly reread the last paragraph. And the use of her special love magic brings joy to many of Canterlot's residents. The use of her special love magic. For a moment, Candyfloss sat quiet. Still. Quite still. As the meaning of the sentence slowly made itself apparent in his thoughts. Was this article implying that Princess Cadence was able to use her magical abilities to create love between ponies? The implications of such a power, and the magnitude of the effect it would have on Aquatia's delicate balance of love. Candyfloss gripped the corners of his desk for a moment, as the reality of what was written in front of him hit him like a ton of bricks. He sat there, quivering for a few seconds, his mind racing. Everything I've discovered, everything I've passed on to others about the delicate art of shipping, the ethics, the sincerity, the absolute care and dedication required to properly fan the first flames of true love. Can it all really be bypassed by magic? Candyfloss steadied himself and took a slow, deep breath. Get a hold of yourself, Candyfloss, he thought. Perhaps it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's just a simple misinterpretation for what it really is. It's completely harmless and benign ability. There's no sense in getting all worked up over one newspaper. After all, it could be nothing after all. Or it could be an evidence of a pony with a power to redefine the very meaning of love. The sound of hooves outside the office shook the old unicorn from his thoughts. The door creaked open, and a bright yellow earth pony poked in his head. "Morning, boss," Watt said loudly. "How are you?" "Fine," Candyfloss lied. "Watt, get in here. I need your assistance for a bit." Watt stepped into the office. Sure. What do you need?" "I have some sudden urgent business to attend to," Candyfloss said. "I know it's unorthodox, but I need to leave the office for a few hours, and I need someone to handle the manager position until I get back." Watt produced an enormous grin. The expression made Candyfloss a bit uncomfortable. You don't suppose the others will be here soon, do you?" Watt looked at it. Watt shook his head. "Nuh-uh, it's still early," he insisted, "but I could handle your job until you get back." Candyfloss sighed. "Under normal circumstances, I would have to decline that offer, but there is a matter of severe urgency that I must investigate. So I suppose it wouldn't be too much harm if you were to—" "All right!" Watt cried, cutting Candyfloss off. "Don't you worry about anything, boss. I'll be the best temporary crazy enigmatic shipping guru manager ever!" Candyfloss snorted indignantly. "Well, yes, I'm sure you will do your best, Watt," he said slowly. "All you have to do is answer the phone, write down the address that the client gives you, and send one of the others to meet them. Can you handle this?" "Piece of cake," Bart replied. "I got it all under control, boss. Really, just run along and have fun tending to your emergency. I'll hold down the fort here until you get back." Candyfloss raised an eyebrow. "All right, I'm counting on you, Watt." The unicorn rose to his hooves and trotted towards the door. Watt leapt over the desk and collided with the large swivel chair, sending it into a series of spins from the force of the impact. As Candyfloss trotted down the hall, he heard the phone ring in his office. Watt picked it up almost immediately. "Hello, welcome to Equestrian Speeding Shipping Services. How may I take your order?" Candyfloss shuddered and hurried out of the building before he had a chance to change his mind. There was a soft knock at the door of Ponyville Library. It was unusual for library patrons to come so early, but Twilight Sparkle didn't mind. She trotted down to the front door. "Welcome, sir," she said as the unicorn behind the door entered the front room. "Can I help you with anything?" "I'm not here to check out a book, actually," the visitor explained. "I'm come search for a mare named Twilight Sparkle. Am I to assume that I am speaking to her right now?" Twilight nodded. "Well, yes, but who are you? I don't recall ever meeting you before." "Allow me to introduce myself," the unicorn said. "My name is Dr. Candyfloss. I run a small business here in Ponyville, and I've come to seek out a bit of information from you, Miss Sparkle." He cleared his throat. "My apologies if this is an intrusive question, but are you familiar with Princess Cadence?" "Of course," Twilight said, grinning. "Cadence is my sister-in-law now." "Well, I'm sure she's a wonderful addition to the family," Candyfloss said. "I just had one small question about her. A minor curiosity, nothing more." Despite his highly polite demeanor, Candyfloss suddenly looked very serious. "Miss Sparkle, I wonder if you might explain the basis of Princess Cadence's magical abilities to me." Uh, sure," said Twilight, slightly taken aback by the unexpected question. "Cadence has the amazing ability to spread her love with her magical powers. I've seen ponies screaming at each other one moment and then laughing and hugging in another one. It's really amazing to see a pony with that kind of ability. It's heartwarming to see her using it too." Twilight stopped and cocked her head questioningly. The unicorn in front of her seemed to have become lost. Notifications. Don't come on my screen. Bang. Can't see the words. Sir, are you okay?" she asked concernedly. Concernedly? It's weird. I thought it was just NDLY. "I'm fine," said Candyfloss a little too quick. I'm just, uh, th- that was the clarification I was looking for." "No problem," Twilight said. "Now Spike's making breakfast. Would you like to stay for some—" "No, not really. I gotta get going," Candyfloss interrupted. "I'm sorry, but I have some very important business to attend to, immediately." "But—" Twilight tried to argue, but she was cut off as Candyfloss disappeared in a flash of magic, leaving her standing alone in the front room. The ponies on the train to Canterlot shifted uncomfortably and cast nervous glances at the strange unicorn, mumbling to himself. Candyfloss was oblivious to their stares, though he was far too engrossed in analyzing what Princess Cadence and her magic meant for his ideals, his career, and his very definition of love. Bringing ponies together through magical manipulation, he muttered under his breath. I can't believe any pony would be born with such an ability at all, let alone proceed to use it on a whim. How can she justify the artificial creation of a relationship? Love has always been one of the most powerful forces in the world. It serves to bring the correct pair of ponies together as a couple, and it is in those carefully chosen relationships that ponies are happiest and most productive. If love can be forced between any pair of ponies, the wrong sorts of relationships form, and ultimately society would be worse for it. Given enough proper matches, eventually the meaning of love will become fundamentally different. Candyfloss slapped his hooves together. I've got to go see this for myself, he continued, indifferent to the ponies bothered by his slightly ongoing soliloquy. I just can't allow myself to believe that one pony, and a princess no less, could single-hoofedly bring the downfall of one of Equestria's most sacred and fundamental forces. The train rumbled as it ground to a halt in Canterlot Station. Most of the ponies disembarked quickly as possible. Candyfloss trod slowly out of the car and glanced down at the bright streets of the capital. Now where to begin? The stallion asked himself. Canterlot is a big city. I'll need some information if I want to locate this Cadence. Candyfloss shot out of the station and into town, not sure what to do. After all, it was unlikely any random pony on the street would happen to know Cadence's location at the exact moment. The newspaper had said something about Cadence visiting Canterlot with the intent to enjoy some of the attractions it had to offer. So the shopping and dining district upon the good was as good a place as any to start. Quickly, Candyfloss began a search. Soon it was afternoon, and Candyfloss was losing his patience. He trotted tiredly down the street lined with some of Canterlot's fanciest restaurants, watching the activity as the lunch hour brought his many customers. Still there was no sign of Cadence. What I wouldn't give to be a Pegasus sometimes, the stallion muttered to himself. Perhaps I should have brought one of my employees along to assist my search. A loud voice above suddenly caught Candyfloss's attention. He stared up at one of the balconies of the eateries where the two diners had suddenly broken into a heated argument. I don't care, the stallion on the balcony roared. We are not buying. Stop being so selfish. Oh, I'm the selfish one, the mayor arguing with him shot back indignantly. You're the one who just got a huge raise, aren't you? You're probably planning to spend it all on those stupid baubles you collect instead of something useful. Don't tell me what to do. I spent my hard-earned bits on what I pleased. There was a sudden bluish flash, and the two ponies stopped arguing instantly, blinking as if they weren't sure what happened. You know, the stallion said quietly, maybe you're right. I do spend a little bit too much on my collection. No, I've been too harsh as well, the mayor admitted. Perhaps we can find a reasonable solution. Maybe we could purchase a less expensive model, and there's some left over for you. That way, we can both get what we want. The stallion nodded. That's reasonable. I'm sorry for yelling. Me too, the mayor replied, smiling sheepishly. The two ponies leaned across the table. They shared and exchanged a small kiss. Dumbfounded, Candyfloss turned his head, staring up at another table at the balcony, where a pink mare in royal regalia sat. She smiled briefly as she turned from the couple and returned to her lunch. Cadence had struck again. For a moment, Candyfloss felt rather weak. His worst fears about Cadence appeared to be completely true. He stood paralyzed, wonderfully precise what he had to do now that he had found the pony committing such a grave sin against true love. Candyfloss teleported up onto the roof of the restaurant, keeping himself hidden low against the shingles. He carefully peered over the edge to get a closer look at Cadence. To his surprise, she was not the only one on the table. From his vantage point on the street below, Candyfloss hadn't been able to see the stallion seated across from her, bedecked in a red uniform and adorned with a royal seal. It was obviously that this was her recent husband, Shining Armor. That really works well, Shining Armor said. Every time I see you do that, I'm amazed. It's like they were never arguing. Cadence giggled. Yep, those two will find it a lot easier to agree for quite a while, she replied. After all, love is stronger than any negative emotion. Yes, it is, Candyfloss thought to himself. But if you just replace anger with artificial love, its meaning is lost. Come on, Shining Armor said. We should probably head over to the castle and see Celestia before it gets too late. Good idea, Cadence agreed. I hope she hasn't planned a big welcome back party or anything, though. I've had enough pomp and and circumstance since arriving back in Camelot. She sighed. That's the life of a princess, though. I guess I should get used to it. Hey, Celestia's a princess too, Shining Armor pointing out as the couple rose from the seats. She knows how you feel, so maybe she hasn't planned any obnoxious formal ceremony yet. Cadence grinned. You have a point, she admitted. Candyfloss watched the exit, bound for the castle, which he would obviously not be allowed to enter. I need a plan, and I need one fast, he said wildly. What can I say or do to prevent Cadence from using that awful magic? If I don't confront her soon, I'll never get a chance. Candyfloss teleported once again, this time appearing in an alleyway, from which he watched Cadence and Shining Armor meander. I got that one. Meander towards the castle. Unaware of his presence, they continued their chomp. For a few minutes, Candyfloss moved his from hiding spot to hiding spot, watching the princess as he tried desperately to think of a plan. It wouldn't be easy to convince a pony to ignore her own special talent, even if it was a horrendous one like that. That's fucked up. I guess the author didn't like Cadence or something, or like he was writing and then the Camelot wedding happened and it just kind of screwed him over. At least he did it before, not after. That would have been a disaster. Something. Hang on, dear, she said in chat. As Candyfloss teleported to another roof, he heard the loud voices of a pair of ponies on the street below. Another argument had broken out between two ponies over something frivolous, and to Candyfloss's horror, Cadence seemed to have taken notice. Hang on, dear, she said to Shining Armor. Let me take care of these two. Candyfloss panicked, crawling around on the roof of the building as he searched for anything to cause a distraction. His stomach twisted as the thought of standing by helplessly as Cadence once again used her magic to create artificial love. The stallion spied on a loose brake dangling from a chimney on the roof for which he was perked. Quickly, he engulfed it in magic and tossed it to the street below, hoping to convince the other ponies that the structure was unsafe. Perhaps this would cause Cadence to move away from the building at the arguing ponies. A stupid plan, yes, but he had nothing else to go on. This was an emergency. Candyfloss hid himself from view of the base of the chimney as he heard the brake clatter harmlessly to the street. The voices below quieted somewhat. Candyfloss grinned. Perhaps his distraction had bought him a little time. Look out! Some pony shouted from down below. Look out! Candyfloss thought. Whatever for? There's nothing else falling. A shadow loomed over the uniform as he turned around. The chimney was a bit older and more unstable than Candyfloss had realized, and without the aid of the now missing brake, it was losing its ability to hold its own weight. Candyfloss gasped as it teetered dangerously, about to crash down as the roof right where he stood. At that very last moment, Candyfloss worked up the strength to teleport away, reappearing on another rooftop across the street. The chimney toppled first, smashing into the roof and sending a shower of brick shingles to the street below. And directed for Princess Cadence. Oh God! Candyfloss squeezed his eyes shut in terror as the princess' terrified scream pierced the air. There was an enormous crash and a few sharp sounds. Cautiously, Candyfloss opened an eye, chancing a glance at the rubble-covered street. Shining Armor stood between Cadence and the building, a wall of magic shimmering in front of him as the last of the bricks lighted off harmlessly. Cadence cowered behind him, only to realize that she had just been saved from an avalanche of masonry by her husband's quick thinking. Candyfloss breathed in a sigh of relief, and in a way, the plan had worked. The arguing ponies had ceased their conversation to stare at the wreckage in stunned silence. Candyfloss's sense of victory didn't last long. His smile faded as the situation fell into perspective. I almost accidentally assassinated the princess. Oh God, what have I done? Shining Armor's magical field flickered and disappeared. He stood still for a moment, gazing at the roofs as if checking for any more falling degrees, and he turned and faced the street. Candyfloss couldn't quite make out his expression from his hiding place. Oh God. Suddenly, Shining Armor tilted his head back, firing a burst of magic into the sky. Once high up, the little spark erupted into a gigantic magical field, which quickly extended downwards, covering the entire district of Camelot. Alright, listen up, every pony, Shining Armor yelled, catching the attention of all the surrounding citizens. who hadn't already been mesmerized by the sudden appearance of the shield. What just happened here was no accident. There's an assassin among us. The best guess is that it's a changeling. Another one of those shifty creatures must have snuck back into Canterlot disguised as the pony. Shining Armor scowled. I should have guessed those brutes are going to... all my depictions of Shining Armor do not say this, but whatever. Look how I kind of depicted him. Smooth. Lit all the time. Cadence just glanced around nervously, as if expecting the changeling queen herself to come bursting out of the nearest luncheonette. Now no pony can get past the shield, Shining Armor explained. So all of you are staying right here until we root out the villain. He or she is definitely still inside the barrier. Oh, my tears! Candyfloss slowly crawled backwards, edging away from Shining Armor. Once he was certain he was out of the sight of any pony around him, he teleported down the street level. Well, this is a sticky situation I've gotten myself, Candyfloss thought nervously. I never meant to harm any pony, of course, yet I fear it would be difficult to explain to Shining Armor after nearly dropping, a ton of bricks on his wife. Although a building now separated Candyfloss from Shining Armor, the guard's captain's commanding voice was still clearly audible. Now, it'll make this easier if every pony within the shield will simply comes forward for investigation, he continued. Most of you are perfectly innocent, and just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The quicker we do the inspections, the quicker we can find the assassin, and then you can all go home. There must be a way out of here, Candyfloss mumbled to himself, turning around and placing a hoof against the magical shield. I expect I'll be a whole lot of trouble if Shining Armor discovers my involvement in the incident. Candyfloss decided to try the most obvious solutions. Since he couldn't pass through the barrier, maybe he could teleport to the other side. There was the usual flash of magic, but Candyfloss's displeasure, he hadn't moved an inch. Even worse, the barrier had detected the attempt of being magically breached, and the whole region of it surrounding Candyfloss had changed color to indicate that. Over there, came another voice. It must be a changing trying to escape. Oh my goodness. It's like I've on alcohol already. I'm like slurring really badly. Must be my dry tongue. Hold on, people. I'm going to go get a drink of water. After having a delicious drink of Schnapple iced tea, I am back. Over there, came another voice. It must be the changeling trying to escape. Panicked, Candyfloss searched for another method of escape, but the other ponies within the shield rounded the corner to his location within seconds, Shining Armor at the head of the group. Disguised as a gentle old unicorn, eh? Shining Armor asked. Very impressive. No pony would have succeeded a thing if you didn't try to kill Cadence. Now, sir, Candyfloss stuttered, I believe you got it all wrong. I'm no changeling. This is all just an unfortunate misunderstanding. He chuckled nervously, Shining Armor raised an eyebrow. I'm not buying it, he said gruffly. If you're innocent, why'd you try to escape my barrier? Well, it's a rather funny story, actually, Candyfloss said. You see, I was concerned per se. I was afraid you might misunderstand. Candyfloss's nervous chuckle rose from the octave as Shining Armor took a few steps closer. You see, I wasn't trying to hurt any pony, but perhaps from your point of view my actions were quite accidental, you mind. Might be misconstrued as an attack. You try to crush my wife, Shining Armor snarled. I don't think that I'm misconstruing anything, you old windbag. Fucked up. But that's enough out of you, Shining Armor said, but cutting Candyfloss off. If you won't reveal your changing form, so be it. I'll fight you as you are. Fight? Candyfloss squealed, his voice rising to a pitch he wasn't aware he could reach. No. I don't want any trouble. Please, there's a simple explanation for all this madness, I assure you. Save it, Shining Armor said. Get over here. Oh, this is why. This is just bad. Get over here. We need to get out into the street where there's enough room. And then I'm going to make you regret coming back to Canterlot. Candyfloss swallowed hard and slowly followed Shining Armor out into the streets. The other pony, who had been unfortunate enough to be trapped within the bounds of Shining Armor's shield, all glared, causing the old unicorn to feel rather like a criminal led to his sentence. Once the two reached the widest street within the magical dome, Shining Armor turned and faced his foe. "Well, go ahead, make a move," Shining Armor goaded. "Last time we dealt with you creatures, you were eager to attack every pony around you. What are you waiting for?" "I don't want to fight," Candyfloss insisted yet again. "You are wrong, good sir. I am not a changeling." "Wow, this one's determined," Shining Armor mumbled Cadence. The princess nodded, continuing to stare at Candyfloss. Her expression, Candyfloss noted, seemed to be filled with confusion rather than fear or hatred. "Right then, I'll start," Shining Armor declared. "Defend yourself, you revolting creature." Oh, God. Shining Armor cast a powerful magic blast in Candyfloss' direction. The older unicorn yelped and just barely backed up enough to avoid it, wincing as the attack left a considerable scorch mark on the cobblestone. The first had barely landed, and already another arcing through the air towards him. This time Candyfloss teleported out of the way. Despite his peril, his thoughts were strangely coherent. "I need to find a way to end this before it gets any more out of control," he thought to himself. "But what can I do? If I don't fight back, I'll be burnt to a crisp like an old lump of charcoal by those fireballs." "Fireballs? Yum!" "But if I retaliate and injure Shining Armor, this will only make matters worse." Candyfloss teleported again to avoid another spell, then cast a weak stunning spell of his own in Shining Armor's direction. Being primarily a peaceful unicorn, he had no knowledge of seriously harmful combative spells anyway. The only one he knew would do nothing more than immobilize Shining Armor for a few seconds. I know that would be useful at some point in your life, but is that really all that useful to know? If he could even get it to connect with his adversary. Shining Armor saw the slow-moving stunning spell coming at him. "Come at me, bro." I'm sorry, I'm ruining this. And cast another of his fireballs into the heart of Candyfloss's feeble ball of magic, shredding and diffusing it harmlessly into the air. Candyfloss leapt out of the way of the fireball, landing awkwardly and struggling to maintain his balance. When he looked back up, Shining Armor was gone. Oh my god, he's mad. He's invisible! Impossible! Candyfloss wheeled around as the flash of magic indicated Shining Armor's arrival just behind him. He lunged forward with an angry growl, pinning Candyfloss to the ground. The older unicorn whimpered as Shining Armor's horn lit up, and was about to create another fireball. While it would do nothing more to scorch a changing tough hide, would likely incinerate the trapped unicorn completely. "Stop!" Candyfloss turned his head, and Shining Armor did as well, glancing curiously towards Cadence as she walked up by the two sparring stallions. "But Cadence, he hasn't had a chance to explain himself," Cadence said loudly. "I understand that, as captain of the Royal Guard, you can never be too careful, but this assassin has yet to display any behavior of being a changeling." "But he attacked you," Shining Armor argued. "Isn't that reason enough to believe it?" "Possibly," said Cadence, "but rather than destroying him, then finding out you were wrong, why don't you use that spell your sister taught to make sure that he really is or isn't a changeling?" Shining Armor blushed. "Well, I guess I forgot about that. Hang on." Candyfloss felt a soft, tingling wave of magical energy glide along his body. It had absolutely no effect. Candyfloss's appearance remained exactly as it had always been. Shining Armor stepped back speechless. "You mean you're not a changeling?" "No," Candyfloss managed, struggling to get to his hooves. Shining Armor looked dumbfounded. "But then, why did you attack Cadence?" If you'd just given me a moment, I would have had time to explain everything," Candyfloss insisted. "You hear him out," Cadence urged. She marched up to Candyfloss, staring at him with more curiosity than anger. Candyfloss took a deep breath. "You see, my princess, my name is Dr. Candyfloss. I am owner and chair pony of a Ponyville-based business known as Equestria Speeding Shipping Services. Our business helps love-struck ponies create a relationship with the object of their affection." "Okay," said Cadence, "but I don't see what that has to... What? But I don't see what that has to do with me. What kind of shit is this?" "Well, actually quite a bit," Candyfloss said. "You see, matchmaking is my special talent. It is for that reason that I started my business in the first place. And while in such a position, I have had the time and resources to study love in all its forms at a very profound level. It is my sincere belief that true love is among the most powerful forces in our world, and we are graced to be able to be touched by its mysterious ways." Candyfloss cleared his throat before continuing. Now, after many years of my study, I have believed quite thoroughly that love could not be tamed. This is until I discovered that a certain pony had to, power to manipulate it, to warp it, to decisions of her own will. Caden's eyebrows were. Are you talking about me? So you tried to kill her? Shining Armor asked, outraged. Heavens no! That was an unfortunate accident, Candyfloss cried. I witnessed Cadence use her magic on those ponies at the restaurant earlier. Then, when I realized she was about to do it again, to the two ponies standing at the corner, I tossed a brick from the roof to distract you. It was carefully aimed so that it wouldn't hurt any pony. Candyfloss hung his head. Unfortunately, I hadn't realized that the chimney's structural deficiencies were so severe I couldn't do anything further. It came toppling down on you. I must wholeheartedly apologize for inadvertently causing that. To Candyfloss's great surprise, Caden smiled. Well, Dr. Candyfloss, it looks like you've been worrying over nothing. My powers don't corrupt love's natural order at all.
What? What have I done?
Candyfloss shuddered. Please explain, Cadence. I'm afraid I don't understand. Cadence giggled. You've seen me use my love magic. It seems to create love between ponies, yes? Well, those ponies at the restaurant were already a married couple, Cadence explained. Why, I do technically have love magic. I can only use it to remind ponies of the love they already share. But what if you mistook a pair for arguing for a couple? Wouldn't you create love between two ponies who might not even know each other? Cadence shook her head. No, the magic would have no effect in that case after all. The ponies would have been married, or at least dating, for it to work. She smiled broadly. You see, Dr. Candyfloss, my magic only strengthens love, never create it. It helps ponies who have forgotten how much they care about one another and remember the happy emotions buried within. It shows them that their anger and bitterness towards one another is just another bump in the road, and their love for each other can conquer it. Caden smiled at the growing sense of comprehension from Candyfloss's face. In a way, Dr. Candyfloss, this makes you very much alike to me, she continued. Both of us are agents of love, powerless to disrupt its plans, but honored to humbly forward its purposes. Candyfloss chuckled. What? Candyfloss chuckled. Relived. Reeved? I don't know what that says. I honestly do not know what that says. Relieved. Am thrilled now that the truth had been made clear. Princess Cadence, he began, frowning slightly, I must apologize so sincerely for jumping to conclusions. Perhaps I shouldn't have doubted myself in the first place. Cadence nodded. I understand. Just try not to validate your beliefs by dropping chimneys on passerbys in the future. Cadence and Candyfloss both had a good laugh out of that. And I'm sorry for falsely accusing you, Shining Armor mumbled. But it looks like the both of you got upset. Both of us got upset and jumped to conclusions. Quite all right, my friend, Candyfloss said. It was a pleasure meeting both of you. I thank you for clearing up my troubled mind. Please try to enjoy the rest of your time in Canterlot. We will, Cadence said. Now, you'd probably be getting back to Ponyville, right? Well, yes, as soon as your husband lowers the shield. Oh yeah, Shining Armor said vaguely. He fired a small ball of magic from his horn, and the shield shattered like glass on contact with it, and vanished into the air a moment later. Thank you, Candyfloss said. Now I must get going. I have a feeling that my office may not be running so smoothly without me. Equestria Speeding Shipping Services, please hold. Equestria Speeding Shipping Services, please hold. Pinky, get off the phone. This is our business number. Equestria Speeding Shipping Services, please hold. Hold? What in Equestria are you doing down here? Breeze asked, pushing open the door to the manager's office. We shouldn't even be getting that many calls. I know, Otwell. I think some pony's pranking me. The real business is backing up. Pinky won't stop calling me. It's past lunchtime. I'm a really bad manager. Walt laid his head on Candyfloss's desk and sobbed loudly. It's okay in here. Is everything okay in here? Ditsy Doo asked, peeking into the office. Walt's having a bad day, Bree said. The stress of being a manager is getting to him. Ditsy, help. I don't even know what to do anymore, Walt cried, reaching across the desk with his forehead as if trying to reach his coworker. Don't worry about it, Walt, came another voice. Return to your usual station. I will take over from here. Ditsy and Breeze turned around, surprised, and Walt looked up gleefully. Dr. Candyfloss, he cried happily. Good to see you, sir. Yes, Walt, you too, Candyfloss said calmly. Now, if the three of you would quickly head upstairs, I'll handle the calls on hold and send the three of you on assignment." "Yes, sir," Watt said gratefully. He bolted out of the room, and Ditsy and Breeze close behind. Candyfloss settled into his old swivel chair and sighed contentedly. A few minutes and a bit of organization was all it took to get business set in order again. After his employees had left, he reached into his desk drawers and retrieved his private journal. Entry 217. Today I made a most grave mistake. By discovering a most wonderful pony and almost mistaking her for an enemy, my encounter with Princess Cadence has freed me from my own short-sightedness. My ability to bring ponies is a rare one, so rare in fact that I often forget there are many like me. Today I was given a vivid reminder that love has many soldiers to help accomplish its purposes. They all work in many different ways. It is my wish that both Princess Cadence and I continue our quest to show Equestria the true power of love. Candyfloss. That is it, people. Another chapter, and I'm going to stop reading it.